Brought the lettuce out today, the romaine lettuce. They're doing great too, as you can see. But it's time to thin them out a little bit. You know, this one right here is really just overseeded. So what I'm gonna do is just take them down to one seedling per sponge. And this way, when you're trimming them, when you're harvesting them, it's just a lot easier. They grow better. They're more uniform. You're not cutting around weird angles. So I'm going to take the smallest ones, and I'm really just going to pinch them. I don't pull these up because it can disrupt the other roots. So what I try to do is just pop it right off. I squeeze hard enough so where if you have to, you can take it out. You can see that it's a better angle there. Just pinch those. So you got to pull a little bit, but you're not. It's more about try to cut them than it is to just ripping them out. So basically, you choose the smaller one and pluck it out. Some are obvious, some are not so obvious. Like this one obviously is tiny. You just got to be careful. If you have to, you just leave a little stem in there. This one's not as obvious, but so just make a decision and move on. Zoomed in a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to see. See, this one has 3. This one's an easy one. You can pull him right out. He's not attached. But then you've got these 2. Sometimes you make your decision on what you can actually access. They're real close. You grab whatever is easier. And in this case, it's hard to see, but wow, they're both real nice looking. This one's complete. Ugh, that's just a mess. Sometimes you just pull it out. Make sure to, even though there's a lot in there, make sure you don't take them all out accidentally. Going with the shorter one. A little bit stockier. Change the angle a little bit. This isn't necessarily something you have to rush through. Definitely worth doing now. And this is one of those things, if you're doing this at home and you have time, this does make a difference. If you're running like a greenhouse, you're just probably not going to pay someone to do this. You know, the other thing is I would probably not recommend trying to go for 2 at a time. Stick to just one, be patient, work slow, and just work your way around the plants. got them all. Now it looks much thinner than it did earlier. It's not as green. This is when we first started, but I do think these guys are going to take off. Probably give them a couple more days under the light, throw them under a higher intensity light, and then move them out to the garden. Just moved the lettuce under the more intense light. It's now sitting next to the basil, the slower basil. Just planted 24 basil. These guys are kind of lagging behind a bit, so we'll give them more light. These guys are under that lower light, and I'll give them a few days before we move them outside. This light's far more intense. So here's the latest look at our lettuce, our romaine lettuce. They've been under lights for 3 days. Today's their third day. You can see the roots are just, they're doing great. So once we thin them out, put them under lights, the schedules is from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. I think I fed them twice, and they're going to get a few more days under the lights. I have to leave town, so rather than put them outside while I'm not around at this stage, I'm going to just kind of load up the water, and they'll be under the lights for another couple more days. Normally I would put them outside, but it's been windy and the weather's pretty unpredictable right now. I don't want these guys getting blown out of the system and just drying up on the ground.